One fine day, a man rang the bell of a house. A child came to open the door. He exclaimed, "Mom, there is a Babaji at the door." The mother came and said, "Child, this is your father. Few days back, he had gone to withdraw money from the ATM." Toastmasters and friends, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How many of you have experienced the effects of demonetization? And how many of you know that this is an effort by the government to move towards cashless economy? Right. So, today I am going to speak about, not about digital money or demonetization, but about digital currency. Satoshi Nakamoto, a Japanese researcher, in 2009 coined the term bitcoins. Bitcoins is a digital currency. As fascinating is the technology as is the researcher. Nobody knows if Mr. Satoshi is a male or a female. He sent a paper to his cryptographic mailing list, and all the researchers on the encryption list were taken by surprise. The technology was slowly developed, and it took an eye of the countries across the world. So, what are exactly bitcoins? It's a purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash that would allow online payment to be sent directly from one party to another without any control by any financial or government institutions. Now, how many of you have used torrents before they were made illegal by the government? As you all know, torrents is just like sharing is caring. You host some data on your system and then you share it across the network, but other people also allow you to download the same data. Similarly, bitcoins have some key features. It has no control. No control is there for banks and governments because it is over the network. There is no centralized authority that controls it. It uses a private key as a digital signature, so the technology is highly anti-counterfeit. It uses a peer-to-peer network, as I gave the example of torrents. It has a Bitcoin wallet similar to our physical wallet that we have, which maintains the balance for the Bitcoins. It has something known as a miner pool. A miner pool is nothing but a network of computers which is dedicated to processing transactions for a particular act over the network. Next, we have something called a blockchain ledger. A blockchain ledger is something which holds the account of all the transactions over the network and decodes, encodes, and processes them. How bitcoins work? Well, let us look at the overall architecture. There is a sender party, a receiver party, and something which validates the transaction, which is a Bitcoin miner, which is part of the miner pool. Then we have banks, which can also act as a party during the transactions. How do you get bitcoins? There are two ways we can get bitcoins: mining and exchange. I'll first explain mining. How it works is, as you all know, if you go to a shopping mall or any place, there is certain transaction service charge that is put on every transaction. Similarly, over the network, there are computers that are going to charge you for lending their processing power, for lending their network resources. This is called mining, and as part of this, they get a fraction of a Bitcoin to lend their resources. Secondly, we have what comes in as an exchange. If you go to a bank today and you have one Bitcoin, the bank is liable to give you worth of $730. That is the value of one Bitcoin as of today. So, why do we need Bitcoins? It's made for our generation. The technology is truly dedicated to the internet age. It's fast, secure, and global given the high processing power of the internet. Bitcoins was designed with privacy in mind because all the parties over the network are anonymous. It is not subject to inflation because the last Bitcoin is expected to be mined in 2140 and there is a cap for Bitcoins. Like our banks, they mint money and keep printing notes as and when is required depending on the import and exports. But with Bitcoin, there is a cap of 21 million, so you cannot exceed it. Bitcoins provide financial freedom. Suppose I was in Syria. Now all the banks and the financial systems have crashed. But if I had a Bitcoin, I don't need to depend on the currency of that country. Also, one point I would like to highlight is about the Bitcoin miners. Similarly, as banks as Wells Fargo or Amex, they have huge data centers to process the transactions, right? Similarly, the networks on the computer do the same, and the transaction service charge that they charge is as a result of money. This was to give an example so that you better understand what is the concept behind this. Now, Bitcoins are having their own flips and flops. There are some countries, majorly the developed countries, the North and South Americas, and the European countries where the Bitcoins are legal and you can actually transact. There are some countries that are disputed, namely most of the developing countries such as China, Russia, and India. And there are some other countries which consider it as illegal, such as Iceland and Vietnam. The status of most of the African nations is still unknown. What is the status in India? Well, things look on the brighter side. RBI in July 2016, this year, gave a notification to all the banks that they should consider Bitcoins and try to see what are the proposals to bring it under the legal framework. The RBI also agrees highly that it can help absolutely fight counterfeiting. The flip side of the coin, well, one thing, there are a lot of fluctuations with Bitcoins. Forbes named it as the best investment. The next year, Bloomberg came and said it's the worst investment, and then in 2015, Bloomberg had to look the other way. Similarly, New York Stock Exchange has announced a Bitcoin index on its exchange, which is a positive step. Talking of current trends, according to Gartner report of 2016 in a hype cycle of emerging technologies, Bitcoins or blockchains are right up there, and the technology is expected to mature in 5 to 10 years. So get ready for the digital currency. Next time if somebody lends or owes you money, don't be shocked if they transfer a Bitcoin. Thank you.